Hey folks, welcome back to Three's End. Bobo's here. So, over the past couple days, I've made high-speed pass to Ohio and back from North Carolina here. We are in the process of going PCS in September, hopefully to our new home being built now. I've been taking a trailer up and down the highway, about every 3 weeks or so, just to get ahead of the move. So, I just got back last night, getting settled in and back on the channel. So as I was prepping for this presentation, I got to looking at the grade sheet over here, and I saw where on the 7th of July, 1970, I had a academic test in Principles of Flight. Now that one I scored a 96.8. Yay. Usually I wouldn't have a clue how I was going to score one way or the other. It was a real crapshoot for me in those days. Some days I think, man, you really aced this one. You got this made in the shade. And I'd get the test handed to me, it'd be an 80%, which is our minimum passing grade. And then other times, I'd come out of the academic room, somebody would say, "Hey, Holliker, how'd you think you did?" I said, "Man, I really tanked that one." And I said, "This time I think they're going to get me." And I'd get a 96. Who knew? At any rate, on this particular exam, I scored 96.8 or something like that. I was just thrilled to death. Then a couple days later, on the 9th of July 1970, I soloed in the T-37. Yay. That was a drill in and of itself. What we would do is we go out and fly a few patterns with our IP. In my case, it was Lieutenant John Boomer McBroom. And you'd fly a few patterns and then come in and taxi over to a spot they had designated. The IP would get out, tie down his seat. Or they just shut the engine down. He'd get out, tie down his seat. You'd start the engine back up and then taxi out the runway. Typically, he'd go out to the RSU while you soloed, and then you take off and you're on your own. You'd fly, I think the minimum was 3 landings, something like that, to complete the mission. So you get an idea what it was like. Okay, so on my flight, we logged, on the first flight, we took off at 17:55, 5:55, flew 0.6, a little over a half hour, and I logged 6 landings on that sortie. We came in, and as we were taxiing in, I looked down and saw where we had a fuel imbalance. So I said to John, "Hey, John, we got a little bit of a fuel imbalance here." And he looked at it, and it was out of limits. So we taxied back to parking, and they had a lot of tweets on the ramp in those days. So they just found another one for me. And the drill was I would just go ahead and take off, fly straight through initial around the pattern for about 10-15 minutes and burn down some fuel before I started my landing profile. So Boomer goes out the RSU. I hop in the airplane, start it up, taxi out, and take off. And so I'm flying around the pattern, burning down fuel, and just about ready to get the show on the road. I want to mention here at the time, my parents lived in San Antonio at that time. So we called Mom. Dad, I don't know why, maybe he was working, I don't know what he was doing, but anyway. Mom came out to the base, met up with my wife, and at that time the T-37 tower sat on top of one of the hangars. So we'd gone in and gotten permission for them to go up into the tower to watch me solo out. It wasn't that big a deal in those days. Not everybody was a terrorist threat. Okay, fine. So my wife and my mom are up in the tower, and I taxi out to do my thing. But Boomer's in the RSU. Okay. So I take off, go out outside down, come in straight through initial, around the pattern again, around the pattern again. And now, the second takeoff was 18:49, so 6:49. People are starting to want to go home. Okay. So okay, let's get this show on the road. So I pitch out, come around feeling good, and gear, flaps, start final turn, and come in. Now, I tell you, it's hot in San Antonio in the summer. It's hot as hell. So I come in, and they have these nasty little things that hang out on the approach end of runways in San Antonio, in Randolph specifically. They're called thermals. They're little bitty nasty things that come up, and they hit you just about the time you think you want to land. So I'm coming in. I have everything all set up, and just sitting there, and I don't know, just sitting there probably breathing hard, go part of the program. So anyway, I come in and come across the threshold, chop the power, or raise the nose, and a couple of those thermals go boom, and they pop me up about 2 feet. Great, thanks a lot. And there I am at idle power. Well, throttle to military, and takes about 17 seconds for the T-37 engine to spool up from idle to full military. So at that time, you just kind of hang on and see what happens. So around I went. Came back around, tried it again. Same thing. Well, I might have done a closed pattern at that time. Who knows? Anyway, the bottom line is it took me 1.2 hours on that sortie to log 4 landings. I was worn out. And every time I'd come in and it was looking good, it was really looking good. It was no different than anybody else's, but I'd hit that overrun and probably flared too high. I don't know, got gun shy, who knows what. I'd love to see the tapes. And come in and flare and boom, up I'd go. Oh, crap. So I'd go around. Later, when I was talking to Mom and my wife, they both said toward the later stages of my landings, everybody in the tower was trying to help me out. They're all lined up at the window there, and as I'd come in, they'd start squatting down. As I got close to the ground, they're squatting down, just waiting for the gear to hit. I think they probably wanted to go home too. Anyway, finally managed to get 4 of them on the ground, and including the full stop, and then taxied back, shut down. And Boomer came over, met me at the airplane, and we hopped on the van. And Boomer was not one to hold back. I knew what I'd done. I was there. I had no reason for it, except it was hot that day. Okay, so we ride in a step van from the Tweed side of the runway over to the other side, the 38 side. That's where the squadron was at the time. And when we got there, typically what we'd do is we'd walk outside the back of the squadron. They had a tank set up out there filled with water, and the guys in your class would pick you up if you soloed out, and they'd throw you in the tank of water. So that's the way it was. So I go walking up there and took my chute off and laid it out, expecting the guys to come out from the squadron. And after a certain amount of time, it wasn't long, but a certain amount of time, just one guy walks out. And he's carrying a glass of water, and he says, "Congratulations." He tosses that one glass of water on me. And I mean, what a disappointment. I think the rest of the guys had gone home. And they nominated one guy to stand around with a glass of water to congratulate me. Oh, crap. So anyway, I just, I didn't know what to make of it. Totally humiliated. And then shortly thereafter, the rest of the class came out and grabbed me and threw me in the tank, in the pond tank. And then I knew I had to go in and listen to Boomer debrief me. Well, that was not fun either. But anyway, got through it, got it behind me, and I am so glad it's behind me. That T-37 did not like Bobo very much at all. So that's my story for soloing out. I didn't solo out. I survived soloing out. So anyway, we'll pick this up in a day or so as we move along. Good to see everybody, and I think I'll try to settle down now from that solo story. Thanks for tuning in. Bobo, base gear, stop.